One page in your mailbox could be quietly costing you hundreds of dollars every single month. Most people never even open it long enough to notice. It doesn't look dangerous. It doesn't look important. It's just a plain government notice. It's tucked between a coupon flyer and a utility bill. It sits on the kitchen counter for weeks. But that page is your Social Security earnings record. And if even 1 year on it is wrong, your future check or the check you're already receiving could be smaller than it should be, not because of fraud, not because of some secret government scheme, just because of a typo, a missed year, or a mismatched name that nobody ever went back and fixed. Welcome back to Prime Move Guide, the channel where we translate confusing Social Security rules into plain English so you can protect the money you've earned. If this is your first time here, go ahead and hit that subscribe button now. We cover these updates every single week, and you don't want to miss the ones that could affect your check. Now, let's get into today's story, because it starts with a man named Michael, and what happened to him could be happening to you right now without your knowledge. Michael is 67 years old. He spent 31 years as a firefighter in Nevada, the kind of job where you don't think about paperwork. You think about getting to the next call. When he retired, he filed for his Social Security retirement benefits the way most people do. He trusted that the number the government gave him was correct. For the first year, he didn't question it. He assumed the Social Security Administration had done its homework. But here's what most people don't realize. The Social Security Administration calculates your benefit using your entire lifetime earnings record. And that record is only as accurate as the information employers actually reported, year after year, decade after decade. One afternoon, Michael's daughter was helping him set up something called a My Social Security account online, mostly so he could stop losing paper mail. While she was in there, she clicked on a section most people scroll right past. His earnings record. The year-by-year list of what he'd paid into the system since he was a teenager, and there it was. 1 year, back in the late 1990s, showing almost nothing. A year he clearly remembered working full shifts, running calls, earning a normal firefighter's salary. On paper, according to Social Security, he'd barely made anything that year. That one blank year didn't just sit there quietly. It fed directly into the formula that decided his monthly check for the rest of his life. Now, before we go further, let's slow down and explain something in plain English. Because Social Security loves throwing around terms that sound like they came from a tax manual. Your earnings record is simply the running list Social Security keeps of everything you've earned that counted toward the system, year by year, going all the way back to your very first job. When it's time to calculate your benefit, Social Security doesn't just look at your last few years of work. It looks at your highest 35 years of earnings across your entire working life. It adjusts them for inflation, and then it averages them out. If even one of those years is missing or too low, the average drops. And if the average drops, your monthly check drops with it. This is the part almost nobody explains clearly. It's not that Social Security is trying to shortchange anyone. It's that the system depends entirely on employers reporting wages correctly. It depends on Social Security numbers being typed in without errors, and on names matching exactly across decades of paperwork, job changes, and even marriages. one digit off in a social security number from 30 years ago. One employer that reported earnings under a slightly misspelled name. And suddenly, a year of hard work disappears from the official record like it never happened. Let's pause on Michael's story for a moment and bring in someone else. Because this next mistake looks completely different. Even though people confuse it with the same problem all the time, Donna is 71 years old. She lives in North Carolina. She is a former librarian who spent almost 4 decades helping people find the right book at the right time. Donna receives SSI, which stands for Supplemental Security Income. Here's the myth that trips up so many viewers. SSI is not based on your work history or your earnings record at all. It's a needs-based program, meaning your monthly payment depends on your income and resources today, not on how many years you worked or how much you earned decades ago. So when Donna's nephew told her to go check her earnings record to see if her SSI payment could go up, he meant well. But he had the two programs mixed up. This confusion happens constantly, and honestly, it's one of the most common questions we get in the comments on this channel. Retirement benefits and SSDI, which stands for Social Security Disability Insurance, are both tied to your lifetime earnings record. SSI is a completely different program. If you're receiving SSI, checking your earnings record won't change your payment. But if you're receiving retirement benefits, or SSDI, that record is the entire foundation your check is built on. Donna didn't stop there, though. And this is where her story becomes useful for a lot of people watching right now. Even though her own SSI payment wasn't affected, she realized her late husband had worked for over 20 years before he passed away, and she had never checked whether she might be eligible for survivor benefits based on his earnings record. That's a completely different door, one that a lot of widows and widowers never think to open, because they assume that if they're already receiving one kind of benefit, nothing else applies to them. Donna made a call to Social Security just to ask, and that single phone call started a review that could end up mattering a great deal for her financial future. We'll come back to what happened with that call a little later in this video, so stay with us. Let's bring in our third story now, because this one shows just how high the stakes can get when an earnings record is wrong. Anthony is 61 years old, a former electrician from Illinois. He worked with his hands for over 30 years before a back injury forced him to stop. Anthony receives SSDI disability benefits based on his work history. Unlike retirement benefits, which are calculated once you decide to claim them, SSDI benefits are calculated using a similar formula built on your recorded earnings. But the stakes feel even higher, because for many SSDI recipients, that monthly check is their entire household income. When Anthony applied for disability, the amount he was approved for felt lower than he expected based on what he remembered earning over the years. He didn't think much of it at first. He assumed the government's math was simply the government's math, and there was nothing to question. But after seeing a segment about earnings records on a morning show, he decided to log into his own My Social Security account and take a look for himself. Sure enough, there was a 2-year stretch in the mid-2000s when he was working for a small electrical contracting company.